navigate, including David Goldsmith. And so the only thing I think, David, is that you may not know how to use your superpowers, namely flight. So I'm going to explain to you how to fly. So there's two ways.
I think we did it yesterday. I think I tried it. You hit the button on the bottom, and then I moved around, so I'm flying now. Correct?
Correct. So if you are on a keyboard, on a device with a keyboard, there's an extra little twist, which is that the F key works as a toggle. So if you hit it once, you move to flight mode. If you hit it again, you will basically settle down back to the surface if you're flying high. And then the H and the L key on your keyboard are ways to go higher and lower, respectively, vertically. So H and L, these control your vertical height, and so they're an easy way to adjust your height. Otherwise, you just fly in the direction of your gaze.
Okay, I will try to not get lost. There's a GPS up there, right? There's a GPS that I can use. Did you give me that?
Absolutely. Up and running, David.
Okay.
So, see more people coming in. Gary Barnhart, welcome.
Hey, Gary. Welcome, Gary.
Manny, while we have a few moments, while people are streaming in, remember what I said earlier about editing your profile, the colored ring around your profile, your bio, your socials, and Nick, you may want to do that as well. David, if you haven't done that, this is your opportunity to add your short bio. You can use the same one. That what I did is, copy paste my short about from LinkedIn into the profile, where you can edit your profile. And so you can access the editing of your profile with the second icon from the right in the dock. So you have the exit button and then My Settings. When you go to My Settings, that's where you can add your socials, put in your bio, and adjust your first name and surname should you want to do that. You got it, David. Perfect.
It's not holding. Just
you want to save it at the end, but I did see already a change of your color background.
Yeah, but I'm changing my name, so to my family name on the bottom, and then I delete it on top. I hit done. I don't know if I have to save at the bottom, but I hit done, and it keeps on not moving my name to the second line. It keeps on keeping David Goldsmith in the first line. I've done it 3 times. Each time it doesn't move it down to last name, so you know.
Okay, thank you. That's exactly the kind of fine detail that we are looking for, and that kind of detail.
And where was the profile? Where was the profile again?
So you can access it with the second icon from the right in the dock at the bottom.
That's the one I clicked on, which just has to choose the color, but it doesn't give me, I can't scroll down to get any more. All I'm getting is my first name, last name, and choose color. I don't get anything else. So no links.
That's because you're unverified or unregistered at the moment. So no need to change now because that would require you to exit and then re-enter. Okay,
Okay.
I'm going
No worries.
to start the meeting. Welcome everybody. I will give the floor to Manny Pimenta, the founder of Virtual Moon, in a few moments. Thank you all for joining us for this informal gathering regarding Virtual Moon. So I'm Philip van Nedervelde. I'm the founder and CEO of ECOVERSE, which is the metaverse platform that Virtual Moon is running on top of. And I also have a role within Virtual Moon, but we'll get into that during the presentation that Manny will be giving to you. I want everyone to know that this event is also streaming live on YouTube and on Twitter Spaces, also known as X Spaces. So for people who might not be able to join us in this virtual space, it's good to know in the back of your mind that the same event is also accessible via a live stream on YouTube and audio-wise on Twitter Spaces or X Spaces. So,
what's the address on YouTube?
So I will share the of the. Okay, we're getting a little bit of feedback in the audio channel. I think we've corrected that now. The links to the live YouTube stream and the Twitter space will be shared in the text chat of this space in a moment. Okay, so before starting the presentation, I wanted to remind everybody, I think everybody knows how to navigate and how to look around and move around. If I don't hear anyone saying otherwise, I will assume that that is the case. Gary, you may not be aware yet that in ECOVERSE, users or citizens have superpowers. More specifically, you can fly in ECOVERSE, and you can activate flight mode by clicking on the central icon in the dock at the bottom of your frame, or by, if you have a device with a keyboard, by hitting the F key, F for Foxtrot. If you have a keyboard device, then you can also use the H key and the L key, respectively, to vertically ascend and descend, going higher and lower. So H, hotel, L, Lima, takes you higher and lower. So I invite you to use your ability to fly to position yourself in front of the shared screen in the space so that you have the best seat in the house for watching the slides that Manny will start presenting in a moment. Another point of order is that the virtual space that you are in at the moment is the entire ECOVERSE is in alpha. And so there still are some rough edges to be ironed out. And this meeting, so the ECOVERSE system is still in development, and ECOVERSE itself is still in stealth mode at that. But this space 2 is not finished. This particular space, meaning the Tranquility base space, we will still be polishing its historical accuracy and other features. And so it's all work in progress. Thank you for helping us to test it for meetings like these. any feedback will be appreciated. And then I will finish by reminding everybody that when you register, you are also able to change your first name and surname and add your bio and your socials. So if you haven't done that to log in now, don't bother with that for the moment, but you can inspect the bio and socials, the profiles of other people by clicking on the participants panel in the dock, which is the fourth icon from the left, two icons to the left of the fly icon. With that, I thank you all again for joining us, and I'm going to give the floor to Manny. Manny, you have the floor. Manny, I know you hear me. You need to unmute your mic. I do not hear you at the moment. Manny? So, just a sec. We need to make sure that...
I got it.
There you go. There you go. Okay, go ahead, Manny.
Okay, so thank you, Philip, and thank you everybody for joining us. Again, this is our first event, and it's kind of a trial run, kind of a rehearsal for future events to come. We appreciate you joining us, and we want to keep this pretty interactive. I have a few slides that I want to go through just so anybody who's here who's not familiar with Virtual Moon will get a sense of what we're doing. And we're very interested in your reactions, your opinions, your ideas. So we'll get started. Start by a short introduction. I've been involved in the space advocacy community for over almost 25 years now. And my background, I'm an engineer and I have a master's in computer science, but I'm just a regular guy. I'm not an aerospace engineer. I'm just an electrical engineer. And my interest in space is purely avocational. So about 25 years ago almost, I attended my first space conference, was a Return to the Moon conference that was organized by the Space Frontier Foundation. And I joined the Space Frontier Foundation, and a couple of years later, they asked me if I would run the Return to the Moon 4 and 5 conferences. So I did that. I organized those in 2004 and 2006. And, you know, got increasingly involved in the space advocacy and attended various conferences and events. I gave some lectures and presentations at universities around. I live around the New York area, so Princeton, Rutgers, NYU. I was also a founding member of the International Lunar Observatory Association, and the ILOA actually had a payload on the Intuitive Machines mission that recently landed on the moon. It was a telescope that was intended to image the Milky Way galaxy, but unfortunately, the Intuitive Machines mission landed on its side, and the ILOA mission was not fulfilled. But we have more upcoming payloads in following up missions. And my other claim to fame is that I successfully landed the space shuttle 3 times. Back in 2004, I have a bit of an obsession with the moon, as you may already have been able to tell. And back in 2004, I created a company called Lunar Explorer, and we created actually the world's first simulation of the entire moon. And Virtual Moon is a more recent company that I founded. And the intent of Virtual Moon is to recreate Lunar Explorer for the new technology, because back in 2004 there wasn't virtual reality, consumer level virtual reality technology really wasn't available. And so we're sort of doing a version 2 that takes advantage of the fact that, millions of virtual reality headsets have shipped out, and we can now take advantage of that technology. This is proof of my space shuttle landing. I had the privilege and the the real excitement of being able to fly the space shuttle pilot training simulator at NASA Ames at their vertical motion simulator. One of the highlights of my involvement in this whole endeavor. And for me, like for many other people of my generation, including Philip, and he'll be able to tell you something about his experience. But I was 10 years old when Apollo 11 landed on the moon, and I saw these pictures broadcast live from the moon back in 1969, and that left an impression. And what we're working now is kind of a result of that moment in time. So I'm going to turn it over to Philip to introduce himself. Philip leads the team that's actually going to build Virtual Moon for all of us. And I put up just a couple of bullet points. To put up all his accomplishments would take a number of pages. But Philip, please take a moment to expound a bit on your introduction, if you will.
Okay, my pleasure. So, as Manny has indicated on the slides, I've been a veteran. I am a veteran of the virtual reality industry. I cut my teeth on my first metaverse in 1991. So, and to my knowledge, that is the oldest continuously operated virtual reality studio on this planet and in this solar system, in this galaxy even, to the best of my knowledge. So I have been a space settlement and space exploration enthusiast and advocate for my entire life. I have a picture with me on the arm of my father. I was about 2 years old, watching the first step on the moon by Neil Armstrong. And so I don't have any memory of that event, but my father made sure that I was an eyewitness to that historic event, and I will be forever grateful to him for making sure that I saw that live on television as it happened. I've been a space buff for the longest time, as I mentioned. When I was 12 years old, I started publishing and writing articles in national media in Belgium, print media for schools. And by the end of my secondary education, before I turned 18, I published my first article in Astronomy magazine with mention on the cover. It was an overview of European spaceflight. And so I also founded, when I was 13, the Belgian Space Information Center, which quickly became, in a matter of a few years, the richest space documentation center of the Low Countries. And I still have that collection of books and models and posters and movies and all of that. With that, I'll leave it at that, except to say that Manny is correct, that the actual development, so that the heavy lifting of the software development, etc., of Virtual Moon will be carried out by eSpaces. And eSpaces is also the company that does the heavy lifting for the entire ECOVERSE. So, and ECOVERSE, as I mentioned earlier, is the metaverse system currently in alpha and still in stealth, which is used by Virtual Moon to run on top of that and to enable multi-user and a host of other features such as the ones that you are currently witnessing and using, i.e. screen sharing. With that, Manny, go ahead.
Thank you again, Philip. All right, so quick overview what Virtual Moon is. It's not just a moon simulation. We're aiming, this is our purpose, is to create the most accurate, realistic, and detailed virtual reality simulation of the moon. We want you to feel like you have visually experienced being on the moon. We want that experience to be indistinguishable from if you actually had the ability to physically stand on the surface of the moon and look at your surroundings. That experience would be indistinguishable from what you see when you access Virtual Moon. It's a state-of-the-art multi-user VR technology. So, it'll be like in this environment, it's a shareable environment. You'll be able to meet friends and people that you know there, and go on excursions and interact in the environment. The level of realism and fidelity of the simulation depends primarily on two things: the quality of the data and the state of the art of the technology. State of the art of the technology is continuously improving. We've already tested some of our Virtual Moon demos on the Apple Vision Pro, which is has astonishing visual quality to the displays, and also the data available for the moon in terms of not just topology but also visuals from the surface of the moon. With upcoming missions, current missions and upcoming missions, the quality of the data will continuously increase. And Virtual Moon is positioning itself to continuously take advantage of developments both in the technology and the data to bring you, the best simulation of the moon possible. And once we create the moon, that'll be sort of our starting point, our platform. On the moon, we'll be able to create all kinds of experiences and adventures and activities that you can do. So you can hang out with friends and explore the moon experience the environment in this very realistic and visceral way. So we also think of Virtual Moon as a space-time portal. You can think of it as the Star Trek teleporter. Through a virtual reality technology, will teleport you to the surface of the moon anywhere that you want to go. And we call it a space-time portal because, again, with virtual reality, it's a magic technology. It can do anything that you can imagine can be done. So we can time travel. And we've already created a time travel experience, which is the Apollo 11 landing experience, where you get to be there at the site of the landing and watch the Eagle come in from its on its descent approach to land right in front of you. Now, why are we doing this? Well, one of the reasons has to do with my own personal obsession. Since that time in 1969, I've always imagined that I would love to go to the moon if I ever had the opportunity to do so. I haven't given up on that hope. I think things are now moving at a pace that it might be possible for one day for me to actually visit the moon. But what if it doesn't happen? Well, if it doesn't happen, then the next best thing is to use virtual reality technology to get as close to that experience as possible. But I figured, if I have this kind of obsession, there have to be many other people from my generation and people that came from younger generations who are equally interested in visiting the moon someday. Maybe they're not as obsessed as I am, but if the opportunity is there for them to have this experience, they would be interested in it. So, so what I think is if we can use a virtual moon to give people a new perspective about space, like a more direct connection to space, because for the general public, space is sort of an abstract concept, and if we give them an experience like the ability to walk on the moon, that'll make it a more concrete, more personal, and direct. And through this access, I think we can reach and inspire new generations and show them that we have a future waiting for us that's exciting and bold and thrilling, and that they can participate in this future. So we're looking to, again, to connect with millions of talented and dedicated and inspired young people around the world to start building this future for us. So even though Virtual Moon is universally targeted at everyone, and we're, as you see on the bottom, we're going to make it free. Anybody in the world can access Virtual Moon for free, but we are specifically concentrating on the younger school-age children, 5 to 15-year-olds, the ones that are going to create this spacefaring civilization future for us, and let them experience that future. Because one of the other features that we're going to incorporate in Virtual Moon is a very large-scale lunar city that we call Selene, to be built on the South Pole or near the South Pole of the moon. And we also want to use Virtual Moon to give them opportunities to participate and contribute to the whole process. So, and again, this is directed at you, David. Pretty much, our thinking is pretty much along the lines of what you're doing with the Moon Hut project, is to create a community of collaborators that can start working together to take us to that point in the future. Just a quick overview about some of our team. We were, through my involvement in the space community for this past couple of decades, I've made a lot of connections, and we are lucky enough to collect a board of advisors that I think is like none unparalleled in the world, right? So, for example, we have Dr. Jeff Hoffman, who's a retired NASA astronaut. He was one of the astronauts that repaired the Hubble Space Telescope on that first repair mission. He currently teaches at MIT. We have a former VP of Disney Imagineering, the executive director of the original Ansari X Prize, and Andy Chaikin, who wrote A Man on the Moon. And for those of you who are familiar, A Man on the Moon was a book on which the HBO series From the Earth to the Moon was based on. Dan Curry is he was in charge of all the visual special effects for the Star Trek series, not just the TV series, but also the movies. And our team is not complete. We're looking for more more people to join us, more contributions, more participants. So if you think that this is a project that interests you, please let us know. We can use all the help and all the talent that we can find. Okay, so to give you a little bit of background on Lunar Explorer, the Lunar Explorer was the world's first fully immersive interactive virtual reality simulation of the moon. We did this 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, even though at that time there was no consumer level virtual reality hardware that people could purchase, but that was our vision. So right from the onset, we built it as a VR simulation. And it's a complete visual simulation of the lunar environment, all of the visual elements, not just the surface of the moon, but all the equipment that was sent to the moon and left there by the various Soviet unmanned missions and the American Surveyor and Apollo missions. We recreated all of those landing sites, the star field. Again, everything that you could see visually, we replicated. We found out that the simulation Lunar Explorer still runs on Windows 11, and for those of you who are interested, you can email me, and I will be more than happy to give you a link to where you can download Lunar Explorer and play around with it. It's not perfect. The simulation doesn't run perfectly, but it gives you a sense of what we did back then. These are some screenshots from Lunar Explorer. This is a Soviet return mission where they collected some regolith and rocks from the moon and shipped them back to Earth. One of the Apollo sites on the lower left, and some shots from orbit and low orbit and high orbit of the moon. We took Lunar Explorer around to many space conferences, and we also published it as a DVD in DVD ROM format, and we shipped many copies around the world to people that purchased it. The pictures on this page, on the top left-hand corner, you may recognize the profile. That's Robert Picardo, who was the holographic doctor on Star Trek Voyager. On the top right-hand side, the person walking on the moon is Burt Rutan, who won the Ansara X Prize. On the lower left, the group of people there at a conference in LA. The person on the blue shirt on the right is Dan Rasky. He's a senior scientist at NASA. He's my inside connection that got me to fly the Space Shuttle simulator. And that's Dan's son on the lower right-hand side trying out Lunar Explorer. And Lunar Explorer, again, was intended to be a starting point. We actually developed a racing game on the moon, a rover racing game that was never published, but was 90% on the way to publishing. This is the Apollo 11 landing site from Lunar Explorer. And just to give you a quick comparison, this is what the site looks like in our early demo for Virtual Moon. So again, massive improvement in the quality, even though I need to point out that this Virtual Moon screenshot that you're seeing here, again, is very, very early, and the final version of this is going to be massively improved over what you see. So I will turn it over again to Philip to tell you a little bit about the technology behind this.
Thank you, Manny. So the Virtual Moon project is very ambitious when it comes to the realism of the experience. And in order to achieve that realism, we are throwing every bit of state-of-the-art technology that we can find and that we can bring to bear on this project. It all starts with creating a high fidelity or maximum fidelity digital twin of the entire moon. just like Lunar Explorer did, we need to make a digital twin of the entire moon, not just a few selected cherry-picked sites. And so our plan, we are at the planning stage for this. Our plan for this is to use artificial intelligence to massage the data that has been collected primarily by the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, which is a NASA satellite or probe that is currently orbiting the moon and that is constantly scanning the lunar surface, both collecting data on the elevation of the moon, the lunar surface elevation data, as well as photographically what that surface looks like under different types of illumination. So there's an enormous amount of data that is made public, that is shared by NASA via the internet. And so our goal is to collect all of that data, to use that data to train an artificial intelligence, and then to have the artificial intelligence do two major things. One, clean up the data, because the data is not free of scanning or data acquisition artifacts. It has holes in the map, it has lines, scan lines, if you like, and other shortcomings which need to be cleaned up in a way that makes the data set consistent and of a consistent quality throughout. And then the second major thing, as you may know, artificial intelligence is capable of upscaling imagery. So basically putting in detail that wasn't in the original photograph by making intelligent guesses as to what should be there based on what is in the image. So that uses a lot of really fancy mathematics, including sparsity mathematics, etc. But the upshot is that if you're familiar with the mathematical process of interpolation, basically you can use AI and that huge training data set to upscale the resolution of all of the surface scans as well as the elevation data to create a digital twin of the entire surface of the moon at a higher resolution than the native resolution of LRO. So LRO is great. It's much better than anything that we've had before, especially given that it does the entire lunar surface. But it only gets at its best when it doesn't have a perfectly circular orbit around the moon. So it comes closer to the moon near the poles, and it's furthest away from the moon around the lunar equator. And so near the poles, the resolution of LRO of the data set is 10 meters square at best. So you can imagine the problem that this produces when you actually go and land on the lunar surface like we are here at Tranquility Base. 10 meters square, that means that one such pixel is 10 meters square, and that doesn't give you anywhere near the kind of detail that you need at the lunar surface. So we will use AI and other things still to upscale that resolution so that you can land anywhere on the virtual moon, and it will have a detail level similar to the one that you are seeing now at this particular scene. And so that's our goal. And another goal is to keep on improving that as the scans from LRO and other sources keep on improving, so that iteratively we just keep on making that surface of the digital twin of the moon ever better and ever more enjoyable. Another bit of technology that we want to use is cloud rendering. So the, um, the quality of your graphics that you're experiencing in today's technology that we're using in ECOVERSE, it really depends on the device that you use to access it. It could be a smartphone, a tablet, a laptop, a fire-breathing gaming machine, a game console, a VR headset, etc. So the real-time rendering of the 3D graphics is done on your device. Now, that will always limit the kind of visual realism that you can get. If we can make use of the super powerful GPUs, graphical processing units, that can be housed at data centers using a technology called cloud rendering, and uh, Epic Games calls it pixel streaming. So basically, you let the heavy lifting of the graphics, such as real-time ray tracing, um, for super photorealism, you let the computer, the server at the data center, do that for you, and then you just stream the pixels, hence the name, pixel streaming. You stream the images to the device, and all the device needs to do is to display those images, be it immersively or on a flat screen. And if you've got a good bandwidth and you're relatively near to the data center, you should have an enjoyable experience. And then all the device does is display that imagery and capture the input of the user in terms of where is the user looking, what is the direction of gaze, and other such parameters to improve the cloud rendering. So that's another big lift. Another thing that we want to do, because of Manny's wonderful obsession with realism in the experience, is that we are currently, the rendering engine we are, or the system that we're using here, here and now at Tranquility Base, is using Babylon.js, which is a very powerful web-centric WebXR technology. And so the quality is great, but there is still lots of room for improvement. And so we know, for example, that a well-known game engine called Unreal can do significantly better than this. So we will be looking into, we haven't made that decision yet, but we will be looking into rendering engines like Unreal to maximize the resolution and the quality, the photorealism of the imagery of the virtual reality simulation. We probably may do a multi-engine solution. We're also looking into that for ECOVERSE, where on underpowered devices and people who don't want to pay for the cloud rendering, they will be able to access the scene using the rendering capabilities of their device. And then for people who do have a subscription level that includes cloud rendering, they will have the ability to have the super photorealistic graphics done by means of cloud rendering. A final word regarding the underlying technology magic for Virtual Moon. So thanks to the technology in ECOVERSE, Virtual Moon 2 will be omni-device and omni-browser in terms of its accessibility. You will be able to access Virtual Moon from any device in principle and any browser. So it is a browser-based, it's a browser-delivered experience, but no matter which smartphone, tablet, laptop, desktop, game console, VR headset, AR glasses, Apple Vision Pro, Meta Quest, it doesn't matter. The user, in principle, should be able to access it from any device using any browser. And so that's a high bar, and we feel strongly about achieving that in order to realize one of the aspirations of Manny, which is that he wants the virtual moon experience to be so the lowest tier of the subscriptions will be free, meaning as in totally free, so that anyone, even relatively economically disadvantaged kids in provincial India, if they've heard about virtual moon and they want to experience it, they can beg their father for a couple of hours on his smartphone, and then they can access virtual moon for free on their father's smartphone from anywhere around the world at no cost. And in order to realize that aspiration, we do need to make it omni-device and free at the lowest tier of subscriptions. After the presentation, we can discuss the technology under the hood even more. But for now, this will suffice. And Manny, I give the floor back to you.
Thank you again, Philip. So the takeaway here is that our feeling is that millions of people dream of going to the moon, and we want to take them there. We want to take them there virtually. And again, in as realistic and accurate a simulation as is possible with today's technology and with the data that we have available. This is a scene from our South Pole region. This is again was created by Philip and his team for Virtual Moon. You're seeing in the foreground, you're seeing Malapert Mountain, which is one of the highest peaks, or the highest peak in the South Pole region of the moon. And if you look directly north from that location, that's where you see the Earth. The Earth hangs fairly low in the sky from that location. And this is the site of where we want to build Selene, the first large-scale permanent lunar city capable of sustaining up to 5,000 people or more, a permanent installation with advanced technology. And Selene will be a place that you can visit in Virtual Moon and explore and walk around. And we don't want to limit it to just being a visual simulation. We actually are going to create an engineering simulation, a digital twin of a fully functioning future lunar city where all of these systems, life support systems, power systems, communications, thermal control, everything that it takes to build and operate and maintain a permanent city on the moon will be simulated as an engineering simulation and a visual simulation. Now, here I have 3 quick videos of people that have tried the Apollo 11 landing experience. And by the way, everyone on this call, if you will email me, I'll give you my email address. If you'll email me, we'll send you a link. And if you have a virtual reality headset, you will be able to have to experience the Apollo 11 landing as a moment in history. Again, courtesy of Virtual Moon. So this is Dan Suarez. Is the first one. He's a science fiction best-selling author, and he tried the Apollo 11 lunar landing experience for the first time. Let's see, and it doesn't run. I tried it before and it ran. Okay, so
Manny, maybe if you switch to not full screen, it might run then.
All right, let's
Maybe-
try that.
Maybe it doesn't capture your input when it's in full screen mode.
No. No, it doesn't. I can't run it.
Mr. Murphy, please leave the room.
Okay, well,
Do the other ones, the other ones don't run either, right? Yeah, that may be a PowerPoint thing.
and this is it. We are looking to build a community. We are looking for contributors and people to participate in our project. There are many ways to participate. Donating. We are looking for funding as well. So there's an opportunity to donate, and we have incentives, and we have ways of showing our gratitude for your support that I think you'll find very exciting. I'm not going to get into those right now, but also there's opportunities to contribute. You can volunteer your skills, your expertise, or your time, and also give us your ideas and your feedback. And of course, the easiest, simplest, and no cost way to help us and support us is to just spread the word. Just tell people about Virtual Moon. And again, as we are actually creating a program, a Virtual Moon Ambassador program, where your promotion of Virtual Moon and what we're trying to do it comes with a package of benefits and incentives that I think you'll find very attractive also. We do have a website. It's currently a placeholder website. The links in there are not all working. That's why I'm suggesting that for those of you interested in the continuing connection with us or a relationship with Virtual Moon, you can email me at manny@virtualmoon.space. But you're welcome to visit the current version of our website, virtualmoon.space. A new version is in its final stages of implementation and will be published very shortly. And we'll announce that to you. Again, if you send us your email, we'll give you updates, and we can continue this conversation. And I'll wrap it up and open it up to the whole everyone here on the site. And if you have any questions or if you want to discuss anything, we can start. And in the meantime, Philip is going to see if we can get those videos playing. And I will stop sharing screen and turn it over to Philip. So any questions, any comments, any feedback?
So if you have a question, you may ask it in the text chat, or you may want to unmute your mic in order for everyone to hear you, if you want to use the voice channel. I'm going to refresh my tab so that I can do screen sharing, because right now I'm trying to share my screen, but I need to reload my tab. So back in a jiffy.
So I assume that some of you that joined this presentation already had an interest on the moon. Maybe some of you are working on projects related to the moon. If you belong to any of those groups and you want to tell us what you're doing in this area, I'd be very interested in hearing.
Okay, so I've re-entered and I'm sharing my screen. Manny, you want to, I think it will work. So this is Dan Suarez. I'll just play that one and then you can tee up the other ones.
We need to do stuff like this again.
Well, that's what we're all about. We want to give people a visceral experience of space.
Seriously, man, I've seen a lot of cool stuff. This is cool. I mean, I've seen a lot of VR. I don't know why it never occurred to anybody to do this. I keep seeing Godzillas and things like that. Oh, there's the ejecta coming at me at hypersonic speeds.
Yeah.
I love it. Come on, Neil, stop screwing around. Get that thing on the ground. I get the Earth and the lander together. Oh man, balls of steel. All right, gotta have the sound to get the full feel, right?
Yeah, we're still working on the concept for the sound.
I can see why you have it. It is immersive, but that's interesting. Those rods that come off of the footings,
Yes.
those were there then.
Yeah, those are the contact probes.
Oh, I love it. Oh, that is so cool.
So let me play the second one. You want me to play the one on the right?
The middle.
Or in the middle?
The middle
The
one.
middle? Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go. Everybody hears the sound, I assume.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow, that was awesome.
Do
That was
you
really
feel,
great.
do you feel like you've been to the moon?
Yes, definitely.
And,
What an
and
experience.
you've time traveled back
Yes.
to 1969?
I mean, I told you, if you could time travel, that would be a prime spot.
And then
All the way at the back of the strap. Yeah, just loosen it.
I'm a little bit. Oh, I see. Well, thank you.
And then lift the visor from the front.
Whoa, that was awesome! Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm definitely going to try this again.
So we have many other videos, but the reaction is pretty universal. Again, people are blown away. And remember, this is a very early demo. The quality level is nowhere near what the final version is going to be. So imagine what the reactions will be like when we're completed.
absolutely. Manny, I see that we have, I stopped screen sharing, and I'll just fly to where the screen was so that we can kind of make a circle to chat a bit. So there's one person in the text chat, Manny, who asked the question, can people have virtual lunar homes?
Yes. So there are many aspects to virtual moon. One of the things you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to own property on the moon, and once you own a sufficient amount of property, then you'll have enough that you'll be allowed to design and build your own lunar home. Now, one of the things that we absolutely insist on is realism. So whatever gets built on the moon will have to be technologically sound. You can't make, fantastical ideas that would never work from an engineering standpoint. But as long as your design and your concept meets all the physical laws and all the engineering principles, then you can build whatever design you want.
So I'd like to add a little bit to that. So an idea that we're also playing with is to have an extra layer of reality, because we can, to add to what Manny just described. So what Manny described would be the default, but if there are people who are really creative and they want to build something on the virtual moon that is not physically possible, some kind of fantasy or you know, a low budget sci-fi thing, they will be able to do that in an extra layer of virtual moon, which is not visible by default. So the default layer is, as Manny described, only things that would be technically, engineering-wise, actually possible in the real world, on the real moon. But to not squelch the creative juices of people, we would still give them maybe the possibility of letting their imagination run wild. But that layer would only be accessible if they allow you to see it. For example, somebody owns a plot of land somewhere near the lunar equator. They invite you for a party there, and you go there just like we are here together right now. And when you go there, you only see the default stuff that Manny just described. But at the flick of a button, the owner of that plot of virtual lunar land would be able to, for you to see their extra layer, their extra version of fantasy reality or of non-strict engineering reality, enabling them to share with you a more fanciful version of their lunar home, of their digs. And so this would basically, people could have their cake and eat it too. And this would go back to the days of Second Life, where you were able to build pretty much anything you wanted without taking into account gravity or any engineering constraints, or even the constraints of good taste. So that's just, I mean, this, as you can hear it from my description, this is not a cast in stone decision yet, but it's something that we're thinking about in order to enable people to also let their imagination or their creativity run wild within the virtual moon context.
That's exactly right, Philip, and thanks for making that point. So we want to keep a version of the simulation that's absolutely true to life, and but on top of that, we can create all kinds of other simulations, right? So the sort of the physical simulation of the real moon will be tightly controlled by us, but then on top of that, users will have freedom to design and implement wild ideas. They just won't be part of that main simulation, let's say.
Right. So I am prompting some people in the audience to unmute their mic, to give them the ability to participate in the voice chat. David and Gary, and I'm now prompting John Bryn. So if you unmute your mic, guys, you will basically, everybody will be able to hear your voice, and so you can ask questions or participate in the voice chat as you see fit.
Yes, my voice is being heard.
Yep, we hear you.
Okay. Interesting, the dynamics that you're putting together. Can I ask why you're going with 5,000 people or that scale, given that that's very, 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 very far away?
Yes. Well,
So the 5,000 is just for the Selene scene. So that's a design target for that moon city of the future. You're right, that is for relatively far in the future. But the 5,000 is not a constraint on Virtual Moon as a whole. So the Ecoverse metaverse system in due course will enable many thousands of people to gather in the same virtual scene at the same time. So like this one, we've done some stress tests some time ago where we were able to have over 1,000 avatars in a single scene like this one. And our current capacity should be higher than that, but we haven't done new stress tests. But Manny, go ahead.
yes, I think the question was more about the sizing of the city itself. Why did we pick that? And
Right.
actually, there's a lot of rationale behind that, but basically it comes down to this: what if every obstacle was removed from the way, and what if we really focused our effort, like concentrated and focused our effort to create an advanced settlement on the moon of this scale, and the only limitation is technological advancement. And our thinking is that in 20 to 25 years, we should be able to build, if all the financial obstacles, political, geopolitical, everything that's an impediment right now, remove all of that and just concentrate what could be done technologically and from an engineering point of view in the next 20 or 25 years. And we have developed this whole approach to show that in 20 or 25 years, we could build this 5,000 person permanent advanced technology lunar city. That's the rationale behind that.
As you know, we've been working on this for a long time, and we have teams around the world helping us. And we see 8 people, then 90, then 578, then 1,644 going into up to the year 2063.
Yes.
Now, that doesn't mean there's going to be transport back and forth, but the 5,000, I guess, is to get just people to collaborate or to enjoy or to experience. Is that the rationale behind it?
We also want to create a very compelling vision of a bold future. Like, again, we want it to be bold and sort of go for the maximum that we can see at this point. To be honest with you, I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I think the technology will make it possible to do this. And I think from a technological point of view, our vision is probably and underestimates what we could do in the next 25 years. But I understand, we had our conversation yesterday, and I understand that you're taking everything into consideration. You're not just thinking about the technology, but about the business and the infrastructure and
the transport vehicles and the number of people it could survive and how much oxygen is possible and how much water is possible.
Yes.
And we're wrestling with the number of rockets that are possible. I mean, right now there's besides the SLS, there's no rocket possible, and that is not even working today. There's no rocket possible to get to the moon.
Yes.
And if you look at the designs that have been created by many people, whether it be in a lava tube or be on the surface of the Earth, surface of the moon, those structures, when you ask them specifically, how do they get transported, built, designed? And it's kind of a little bit like a game of, well, we'll make it happen. And I'm like, okay, well, we're in the pragmatism side. What would it take? So we've got papers, we've got designs, we've got experts who are making choices. And so that's how we came up with our output and our timeline.
Yeah,
So
no,
go ahead.
I understand that perfectly. I also put together a concept, a logistics concept for limiting the mass transportation to the surface of the moon to 100,000 tons, basically landing 1,000 Starship scale payloads. And the assumption is that Starship will succeed, and the technology will prove itself, and that becomes the enabler with
They haven't gotten over the fact that it takes 14 refuelings. And there people toss out, well, maybe we could do it for 8 or 9, but 14 refuelings for one Starship is a tremendous amount of refuelings to
Yes.
get for a 100-ton DeLeo. So if you're talking that type of scale, you have to have complete crews on the moon too, and be able to have life support for them, and water and air filtration systems, and you have to have micrometeorite protection, and there's the transport of humans, which is different than material. And I'm no expert on the moon. I would say, compared to most people I know a lot, only because I've been doing this, and I'm not in love with the moon. But the math is, I mean, we have the McKinsey team has been working with us now for 2.5 years, and they can't figure out how to make the math work. And Andy Aldrin has worked with us, and he's having trouble figuring out the math. And Dan Dumbacher, the executive director of the American Institute for Astronautics and Avionics. And when you sit down and you really, you want to bang your head against the wall, because the financing of that, even if it was possible, the financing of the number of shipments is astronomically high. I mean, we're a $1.6 trillion project over 40 years. That's how we're 1.6. 1.2 of that is just on the moon. And that's still tough for us. I mean, we have long conversations. How do you make this work from a capital markets perspective? What is the return on it? And just, you don't have to trust me. I don't like that phrase myself. I would say frustrating as can be. Absolutely beyond numbers frustrating. And remember, the Starship was not designed for the moon. It was designed for Mars. So to change the dynamics of it, to now ship it to the moon, and we were supposed to have Starship already on the year 2000 doing half of these things. And the SLS is $2.2 billion to ship and $2.2 billion to make. That's $4.2 billion for 4 people.
No, the SLS is an anachronism. It's almost an abomination.
Yeah, and it's for 4 people.
Yeah.
And that's the only rocket today that is even close.
We are making certain assumptions. One of them is that SpaceX will succeed wildly with their Starship.
Okay.
We can have a deeper conversation about this. We can touch on all the aspects and problems that you've raised. I've thought about all of them. But again, fundamentally, we see that over the next 25 years, all the existing technologies will evolve and incrementally. And for example, no, we're not going to be sending any humans to the moon to build Selene. It'll be built completely by advanced AI operated advanced robots that have equal or better dexterity and strength than human beings, and all kinds of different robot forms, all working together in a cooperative type of colony, almost like an ant colony, but all working together to excavate and build and install the systems. Everything can be done autonomously with no human involvement. Again, we're assuming that the state of the art of robotics, artificial intelligence, all of those advance at a fairly predictable pace. And
you're taking Jim Cavallari's work, which is off-world, and making the assumption that his machinery will work. And there's a supply issue, there's an oxygen issue, there's a materials issue. Landing pads, all of that is just really, really crazy numbers, and we struggle with it. I mean, we struggle constantly, and we got some pretty, I mean, if you think about it, there's probably not a single person alive who put man on the moon. And so that's why the Japanese lander landed upside down. That's why the American lander landed on its side. We don't have a single person who knows the math and got things right from the 1970s. There's nobody alive. So, and a lot of that material that was created, unfortunately, was not digitized. It was trashed. They trashed all the numbers. They just took it and they just threw it in the garbage. So we're really struggling today. And I'm not making it a bad or a good thing because we plan on making it happen. But we're really, to say that we are not at our wits' end at times, how to make this work. And we have some amazing people on our team. I am not one of those amazing people. I'm just a guy who happened to come up with this small idea. And it's just a challenge. So I'm not coming at from it. You study this, you do a lot more than I do. You've I mean, you have a love for this in a different way. Like Philip has a love for this. It's, if you just take it from a pragmatic perspective, I mean, you put 8 people on the moon, you're talking $12 billion with a debt service of $12 billion. How do you debt service $12 billion with no returns? And to 5,000 people, geez, the math on that, I'd have to do the math.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be negative here. I'm trying to figure, you and I haven't spoken. I sit here all the time saying, and we've got tech transfer unit, we've got an immersive technology side, we've got a graphene side, we've got a biotech side, we've got people all over the world working with us. And these are huge challenges.
By the way, graphene is a key component that we're also assuming will be available. We'll use graphene to build the pressure envelope that encloses the entire underground city on Malapert.
So you're going to use a lava tube like Scott is doing?
No, we're going to excavate,
Okay.
and enclose the volume with graphene, and then backfill.
The number one former expert in the world on graphene is on our team, and he's on it's actually called Mirth Graphene, and we are working on materials and approaches that can be able to leverage graphene, but he's the number one expert. And we're challenged with the rare earth metal side and the graphene side, because graphene doesn't hold. Graphene breaks apart. It's not strong enough to be able to handle it. So we're working on a deck where, I mean, we're very close to a few people in the Space Force. And we're not an American project. We are not an American project. We're a global project. But because graphene or rare earth metals falls under ITAR, EAR, CFIUS, and a lot of laws that can potentially put a lot of people on our team in jail, we're leveraging the US-based side of just that material. Everything else is global. And the reason we are is we need it for quantum computing. We need it for new materials that will be able to withstand the structures. But most graphene just breaks apart. It's too brittle. It's just too brittle to be able to do any large structures or any material that we're promising as of today.
Understood. Perfectly understood. Go ahead, Philip.
Let me butt in here. So if you all look back at the shared screen, up there, I've put a view of our construction site, virtual reality construction site for Selene. And so, David, do you see that?
Yeah, I can see the red lines.
Right. So I'm navigating the viewpoint, and so what you see here is the top of Malapert Mountain. I'll zoom out so that you can see it from a long distance. So this is the south pole of the moon. The dotted line is a traversal calculation taking...
What mountain, by the way, what mountain was this we're talking about?
Malapert Mountain, Mons Malapert. And so this is the same scene from different angles of illumination. And So as you can see, this virtual reality scene as a virtual reality scene is not finished. But let me zoom back in. And before I zoom in on the Saline City, so the dotted line takes you from the top of Malapert Mountain to the South Pole, which is on the rim of Shackleton Crater over here in the top right corner. But
Yep.
let me zoom back in on the city. So this is a blocking model, David, where we show the excavated volume underneath the top of Malapert Mountain. So Malapert Mountain is not a sharp peak, it's kind of a dome peak. And so the idea here is this is an enormous volume in which can house a small town of up to 5,000 people. And so the excavation robots, which we will be showing in VR, excavated a huge tunnel on either side of this hockey puck volume, and then used the excavated materials to create these ramps that lead to twin landing and launch sites for SpaceX Starships. So there's another one over here. So where you see that we filled in a natural
Depression.
well, yeah, it's a small crater near the top of Malapert Mountain. So that's another, and actually you can see one of the starships landing and launching at the moment. We can even follow it here with this other virtual camera. So let me go back to the overview. So the idea is that we show in this virtual reality scene the robots, the unmanned robots, doing their excavation work, digging up the regolith and the rock, and then trucking it via these tunnels out to the lunar surface. So that's the idea of, and that's the state where we are at the moment for this particular site. Let me take to the air again, and then show different cameras. I had an orbital camera, but that doesn't work anymore. Anyway, you see here how we construct at the moment, how we construct scenes on the moon. All of this is, again, using LRO data. And in this case, it's not dynamically illuminated. We just illuminate it from different angles of the sun, which is very shallow at the South Pole. But all of this to get to the point that I wanted to make, David, which is that we would be happy to create a virtual reality simulator of your design of a permanent settlement on the moon at this location or any other location that you see fit on the moon. And then, you can use this as a sandbox to show people your design in different phases of the development. You can polish your design as you go along as well, always having the ability to show it to anyone immersively on a VR headset or in virtual meetings like the one we're having to discuss and improve your design and to get them on board, etc. So we're an equal opportunity demonstrator or visualizer of any and all moon projects. For example, yesterday in the meeting we had with you, we mentioned the ESA project of the Moon Village. We are approaching them to receive their permission to import into Virtual Moon the entire model. That they created a complete virtual reality model so that we can also show their design, which actually is located near the Shackleton crater, near the top of the image over there. And so we are happy to show the moon settlement designs from China, from for Artemis, our own, yours.
Yeah. I know Jan Werner and the original concepts with it. And it's just a challenge, just a whole challenge. I know you
Absolutely.
loved it. I know you. This is exciting for me. It's just like, geez, why take on something like this?
Well, because in virtual reality we don't have the same limits. We can build Selene without spending the money, but we can build a real engineering simulation. If we know we can build life support systems, we know we can build power systems, we know we can do excavation, we know we can, if we know we can make all of these components in virtual reality, we don't have to physically.
Oh yeah, I know the value of the virtual reality for sure.
Yes.
It's just it's a huge. I mean, right now our team is working on all the math, another set of math. We wrote a 150-page, 200-page paper, and we're going back and doing the math because there's some things we've added, changed that need to be evolved into it, and there's a lot. There's a lot.
So one of our purposes is to prove that it can be done. Now, will it be done? It's very, very unlikely that it will. But we're setting out to prove that it could be done if everything could be aligned properly. And we've also thought about the financing and, again, the logistics and all of that. I would love to have more conversations with you about that because you've been deep into that aspect of it. And sort of get get your opinion about our approach, because we don't claim that we have the solution. This is a starting point. What we want to do is, again, get people to say, well, you guys, your design has like 300 mistakes, and okay, tell us how to improve the design. And so through that process, we iterate and improve the design to get it to the point where it's actually achievable.
So I notice in the text chat that Gary shared a comment. Gary, let me prompt you to open your mic again. You'll see the prompt in a moment, and that will, if you use it to unmute your mic, you can join the voice chat. Here you go. You should see the prompt now. Gary wrote that the Moon Village Association is working on curating a range of materials to support these visualization efforts. That's great to hear. Could you expand on that, Gary? I think Gary may have some mic issues. So let's see. We don't hear you yet, Gary. So maybe, Gary, what you want to do is to quickly refresh your tab. So just exit and re-enter the space. That might jigger your microphone. Also have a look in your address bar. There's at the extreme left of your address bar, if you're using Chrome, there's a settings icon that you can use to clear or to set your mic rights. And on the extreme right of your address bar, there should also be an icon showing a mic. So
he left.
He's just rejoined.
Yeah,
Yes.
Gary and I met in 2017 in February.
Gary, are you back? Can you speak now?
I just not having choice. Gary, you and I met in 2017 at a conference.
I guess not. But Gary, please get in touch. Please email me. We would like to pursue a collaboration with MVA and see, think about next steps and how we can incorporate the Moon Village plan into our simulation.
Absolutely. He's back, but I think his mic issue has not been resolved. We also have John Bryn in the meeting, and I wanted to give him an opportunity to participate in the voice chat. John, any comments? Okay. No. John is a silent observer. So Gary wrote, sorry about the microphone issues. Yes, we wish to be cooperating in any way we can. Well, that's, we're delighted to hear that, Gary. We need to get your mic issues sorted because it sounds like you would have a lot to contribute to this conversation. So we'll explore with you how the materials to support our visualization efforts, we'll be happy to take a look at what you have at this moment and then create a dedicated virtual moon scene to visualize your project. Now, David, you mentioned that you acknowledged the value of virtual reality simulations, etc. But you have your own VR system underway, or that's just on paper at the planning stage? Those are someday maybe, or you actually are developing a multi-user online virtual reality simulation of your project?
A combination of things. There's different use cases. There's use cases for the general public, and there's use cases for people who need to know the physics and the math and the geometry and everything that goes along with it. So we're playing with all these options with individuals, and unless you've got the math and the physics the way you want it, it makes it more challenging. So have we started building something? No. Are we talking to people? We're a little bit different in that we're not trying to limit what we're doing. We're trying to manage how do we get more individuals to understand the constructs behind what we're working on. So on our AR, VR, digital twin, haptics, 3D, 4D gaming side, we are playing with what's the best venue for it. So it's not going to be an exclusive the way we play it. But on the technical side, we got a lot of people helping us and trying to figure this out. I wish it was as easy as it sounds.
Yes.
And Gary, I just wrote you a message, and we were connected in Teams. And Gary, you and I met all the way back in, as I said, 2017 at 2017? It was one of the space settlements, and a very smart guy. He's not talking, but he's very smart, very bright guy.
So I wanted to riff off of something that you just mentioned, David, which is so in Virtual Moon, we want the two versions that you mentioned to be one and the same. So as Manny alluded to in his presentation, we will also have a professional wing to the Virtual Moon project, which we call Virtual Moon Pro, which offers services to the space industry for consulting and contract work to help them with mission planning, terrain traversal calculations, illumination calculations. For example, here on the South Pole, if you have an unmanned probe here or a rover, you want to make sure that it is illuminated by the sun and its photovoltaic arrays are properly producing energy as much of the time as possible, right? So using Virtual Moon and the digital twin that we are making, we would be able to provide those services to the space industry. But that would run on exactly the same model as is accessible by anyone in the public. So we don't make this bifurcation. I mean, we would have special subscriptions for the Virtual Moon Pro clients where we enable certain overlays and physics calculations that are not accessible to John and Jane Doe space settler or space enthusiast, but the core technology enabling it goes all the way from the almost arcade version, if I can put it in those cartoonish terms. So all the way from the arcade version of the moon to the super technical, super accurate physical simulation of the moon to do validation in simulation of engineering designs. You know, does the power supply, does the oxygen generation, does the extraction of water ice and conversion of water ice into oxygen and into fuel, etc., work, and validate all of that in simulation. So it sounds like we have a bit different approach on that point, where we don't separate the stuff that is, we don't put a hard separation between the stuff that is available to space engineers and space architects and the stuff that is accessible to the space enthusiasts.
We haven't had put anything in stone. We're doing the work behind the scenes to make sure that whatever we're working on, or not to make sure, to try to attempt to make sure that what we're working on works. Because so far, I mean, there's, as I said, there's not a single living person, maybe there's one or two, who landed on the moon alive today with those engineers. And all the information, I mean, we worked with NASA for 5.5 years. All that information was just tossed. It was just put into the trash. So the mathematics we're doing today is not available as it was back then. It would be great if we had it. And again, I'm not a space person. I have to share that with you. So I'm learning all of this secondhand. It's trying to figure out how to make it work. And our purpose. So yeah, it's not whether you're giving everything for everybody. It's how you deliver the information for the people that need it. And we're more open than most people are, but we don't go out, and we're just not visible in the same way because everybody else is doing it. I mean, Jan Werner, well, Jan is not as connected to and Gary might be able to say better, but, and Gary, I sent a chat to you or comment to you, is that Jan Werner, he and I have had great conversation. So there's a lot going on. A lot.
Absolutely. So David, how might we help you guys take things to the next level? I mean, would you be interested in creating a virtual version of your? You've shown us your physical model, and that's coming along nicely. It looks like it's plenty ready for creating a fully fledged virtual version where we can do, you know, physical simulations of the embedding of that design on the actual moon.
Yes, we can build digital twins, like simulating the actual function of each of the elements of the systems that you need, and how interconnect them all together and simulate their integrated, the fully integrated installation where all of the systems are individually modeled, and then the interaction between the system is modeled as a digital twin, and sort of demonstrate, the technical feasibility of the solution you're proposing.
And I appreciate it. I mean, I haven't spoken to anybody else. You and I, just the three of two and a half of us, Manny, have only spoken yesterday. So we're trying to figure this out. We talk with people. We have a lot of people on the team working with us on all sorts of different areas. And we have to figure out where that might work and how that might work. So yeah, we're always interested in talking, is trying to figure out what's the best pathway. And I guess part of the reason that I might have some value, and Gary and I met at Gary, you could raise your hand. I think we met 3 different times at the National Space Society. You could probably put a post in there. And I spoke 3 times for the National Space Society about Project Moonhut and what we're working on. It's trying to, for us, and ours is we have to get this done for different reasons, as you heard yesterday. And every step we have to make, we have to put out there properly. And as I said to you, the biggest challenge of the people who are engaged in this Beyond Earth ecosystem for us, not because we have several people, we definitely do, but it's slower. And Gary knows some of the people on our team, and they're challenged too when you put the pedal to the metal, when you are really doing it. It's a lot more difficult to say, how will this module node, how will this structure, this wall work? And yes, digital twins are fantastic. 3D, 4D imagery is fantastic. So we're definitely on board for it. It's figuring out how the model works. You're definitely running an economics model. How does that economics model work? We're more open to. So
yes,
yeah.
We're not just running an economics model. We're running all the aspects in simulation: the physical, the electrical.
No, I meant your company. I meant your company. Like you said, you would charge for certain things and not for others. So we have to figure that out. I'm talking about you have to be able to pay for servers, and you pay for your work. And I mean, we've got a full team. The guy who ran McKinsey's team for 2.5 years is on our team. And geez, we've been playing for 2.5 years just with the math, the economics of it. We have a professor. We're finishing our 3rd economics paper on the ecosystem, and I mean, we have some. I'm not the smart guy in the room for sure. We have some really, really, really bright people, and we struggle. It's just logistics, timing, and so yeah, it's we definitely should continue talking. I am not counting that out. It's just how to make things work, because ours is not about the experience. I know that's great. I know that's exciting. I know if you're a space enthusiast or a person in space, those are all great. Ours is we have to do it. That's it, plain and simple. We have to do it. How do we get it done? So it's
challenging. What do you find the single most, or the top 3 most challenging things in the struggle you mentioned?
Oh my God, there's not 3, there's 400. We've got to remember we have the 4 phases of the moon, 1.2 trillion. We have an immersive side, AR, VR, digital twin, haptics, 3D, 4D gaming. We have the tech transfer side, where Kirkland & Ellis has been on our team for 2.5 years to build an ITAR EAR CFIUS program. We have graphene, and we have challenges with that. Space Force is working with us because that's one thing we can't do globally, because I'm American, I'd be arrested. There'd be all sorts of challenges. We've got a venture side. We just brought on one of the people who launched Ethereum. He launched a part of that team that launched Ethereum, and he's working with us to figure out if we could leverage smart contracts and all sorts of things. There's a funding issue. There's a technology issue. There's not enough rockets. There's just not enough. We're going to run out of the rockets, the Russian rockets, the rocket engines. We're running out of them. They've all been bought up for Bezos to get his satellite system in place. So all those engines that they bought from the Russians, which are fantastic, they're going to be bought up, and the Starship is delayed, and it has been delayed. Not to say it's bad. It's 14 refuelings. How do we make? And I'm not the expert, so Gary, I apologize if I'm making any mistakes here. You're much brighter than I am in this area. I don't know anybody else, I think, on the list, but we don't have the capacity on Earth today, and we're a very fragmented Earth, meaning everybody's trying to do their own thing. That's why we're a nonprofit and a for-profit. That's why we have KPMG, Deloitte, PwC, and EY, JP Morgan on our teams to figure how to make this a universal application, because it's not about space, it's about improving Earth. And we have to do it in a timeline that works. So if I was to say 3, pick which area you're talking about. Talking about capital markets? Are you talking about our Mirth Space Industries? You're talking about Mirth Link? You're talking about Mirth Magic, Mirth Discovery, Mirth Graphene, Mirth Logistics? These are all companies. Mirth, by the way, for anybody who's on the call, you're still staying, so you're probably interested in some of these things. Mirth is the combination of moon and Earth. And I'll give a very short backstory. I was at a conference in Silicon Valley, met with, and probably many of you know this name, met a guy. He's handed me his card, Bruce Pittman. And he said, if you ever want to tour NASA, give me a call. Now, I've been in some of the most amazing factories in the world. I've worked in over 50 countries. And I said, sure, tour NASA would be great. First time I went there, we sat for 3 hours. It was Dan Rasky, which was mentioned. It was Lynn Harper and Bruce Pittman. And they taught me the beginning phases of the moon. I didn't understand a lot of it. And then I didn't get a tour. So they said, come back next time you're in Silicon Valley. Well, I was in Silicon Valley every month, traveling about 300,000 miles a year. So I went back the second time, and we sat for 3 hours with 2 other people. Third time, when I showed up, I stayed outside. I just said, Bruce, you got to come to me. And luckily, I travel at all times with my passport. I got in, did the flight simulator, just like you had mentioned. I was able to, they turned on the flight simulator for me. Saw what they had. I've been in a lot more sophisticated facilities around the world, worked with the CEOs of Maersk, Dole, Tektronix, Infosys, Wipro, Illinois Toolworks. So it was nice. And then we went to Scratch Restaurant and outlined a 4-phase development of the moon that Bruce just said nobody in the world was thinking this way. And for 5 years, 5.5 years, I went to NASA every month, and we worked on these challenges. So the challenge is that there's a lot of great ideas out there, but everybody's going in different directions. And it's how do you herd cattle or cats? Cattle's easier. Cats. Because we have to do it collectively. So we formed a nonprofit instead of a for-profit, but very different than, let's say, the Moon Village. And we have been working diligently in the background. I mean, just diligently in the background, trying to figure out how to make these things work. And whether it's the number of rockets to ship the goods up, or it's the lack of collaboration, or one company bought up a lot of companies, and we've spoken to some of the founders, and they say they're not collaborating at all with one another. We have just amazing individuals around the world trying to figure out how to make this work. And so it's not an easy equation. For any of you who's on the call, you're definitely space enthusiasts for sure. You can go to projectmoonhut.org and drop down the 40-year plan. It's and Helen and Philip saw it, and I'm assuming also Manny, you've seen it. And then there's the Project Moonhut classification system. Take a look at that. We're working really hard to just figure this out. We want bright people to help us figure out how to actually make this happen. And there are 2 videos on the front homepage. If you watch them, it'll give you a little bit of insight. So I'd love to figure out a way to make us work and work together. That's great. We're just, I mean, if you saw me right now, my body language is, sorry, there are people on the call. It's fuck. Just how do you make the economics work? How do you make the tech work? I mean, it's just, I'm not sitting here with a smile on my face. I'm actually like talking out loud to myself saying, geez, this is just very, 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 very challenging. So which challenge you want to pick? Our AR, VR, digital, immersive, you name it.
Well, a couple of thoughts in reaction to what you just said. So, first of all, with regard to the engines, as you probably know, Elon Musk is putting together a conveyor belt producing the latest of the Raptor engines, which are just the best rocket engines on the planet at the moment. And a conveyor belt of them, because for every single Starship launch, he needs a whole bunch of them. And so, and he wants to build, he has plans, or he has ambition to build 1,000 Starships, etc. And so that's a part of the equation that's above our pay grade. I mean, when I say us, I mean Manny and I. And so we just leave that to industry tycoons like Elon Musk to solve that problem. Manny and I, we try to contribute to making things happen, as you rightly said, by leveraging the skills that we have. And in our case, we think that we can do a lot in terms of reviving the electrifying enthusiasm that the entire planet Earth felt when during the height of the Apollo program, with the first landing on the moon, etc., to rekindle that interest and awareness among broad layers of the global human population of what we're going back to the moon, we're going there to stay. It's going to have a lot of spin-off benefits for planet Earth, as you very rightly indicated. And so, and the other part of the equation that we think we can help in moving the needle is providing to the space industry the world's very best digital twin of the moon that is not just pretty to look at, but that is also usable for physics simulation of illumination, terrain traversal, regolith management, because managing the dust on the moon, as you know, is a huge, huge headache. And so our digital twin and its physics simulation will also be physically accurate in terms of the managing the electrostatic aspects of regolith and how to keep it off of your equipment. And because, as you know, that regolith is a huge headache, and if we don't solve that problem, it's gonna muck up all the equipment that's on the lunar surface, and no end of problems. I also wanted to be Gary's voice. He's been writing in the text chat, and so for just to be his voice, I'll read aloud some of his contributions. So he wrote, part of the challenge is to allow for engagement at multiple levels, from a spectator game interaction to being able to examine every object in the simulation, diving into the systems engineering. Couldn't agree more, Gary. You continue writing, another aspect of this is taking an outcome approach that seeks to understand how the science, systems engineering, and architectural design drive what needs to be built for a sustainable settlement that not only allows people to not only survive, but actually thrive. You hit the nail on the head, Gary. And that is really what motivates Manny and I in our sub-project called Selene. So this city, we see that as a nexus to move forward the engineering of how you build cities on the moon and settlements that actually work, that are not just science fiction fantasy, but that actually could be built on the moon in a way that is not just a rough settlement for, barely hanging on by the skin of our teeth settlement, but a place where people can actually spend a large portion of their lives if they so choose, and they can thrive. So the Selene City idea is really looking at becoming kind of the R&R center of the future moon, where people who work on mining sites and other sites and science sites, they can go to Selene for some well-deserved R&R without leaving the moon. And so it would have entertainments and swimming pools and lunar gravity trampolines and all of those things, and a museum as well. And so it would also be the location, a destination for lunar tourists who want to go there. So much more than just the hard job of getting a foothold on the moon at first. Selene, our hope is to make people look at the longer, medium-term future of the moon, and not just the very basic one, which is really something that only a few people will be privy to. But Selene is kind of the handoff point where John and Jane Doe start to be able to entertain the idea of actually going to the moon themselves as a lunar tourist. So Elon Musk has spoken to that point, that eventually he wants to make, with the Starship technology, he wants to make access to space so low cost that, in his words, anybody can save up and buy themselves a ticket to not only go to the moon, but all the way to Mars, so that moving to Mars comes within the reach of John and Jane Doe, every man. And so we see Selene as a kind of a nexus, as a concentration point where people can experience that kind of a near or medium-term future already. Then Gary moves on and paraphrasing
Philip,
Carroll.
if I could just interject, all great points and very well said. And consider this also. We stipulated that we think, let's say in the next 20 to 25 years, the state of the art of robotics and artificial intelligence and all the other tools needed will be such that you can build a large scale facility, fully operational, with no human involvement whatsoever. Now, if we're at that stage, there is no reason to go to the moon except to experience being on the moon. So my own personal view is that tourism will be the reason that people will be visiting the moon, not to work there.
Right. So I continue with Gary's contributions to the conversation. Paraphrasing Lewis Carroll as the Cheshire Cat, it is a whole lot easier to get someplace if you know where you are trying to get to. True enough, Gary. Then you're right, we need to find ways to cooperate, collaborate, and compete to find an implemental confluence of interests. Yes, the concept of co-opetition, combination of cooperation and competition, absolutely big supporter of that, Gary. And then you're talking with Helen to try and figure out your mic issues. Great. So yeah, thank you, Gary, for those points. And we definitely need to explore how exactly we can pool resources and work together to, as David said, make this actually happen and not just be a pipe dream and not just be a virtual reality simulation.
And David, my intention is to follow all your work very closely because we want to be informed about all the issues and problems that you're confronting, and try to incorporate them into our concept as much as possible. But still, our approach is going to be a super optimistic one where everything sort of falls into place. And again, the only limitation that we feel can't be worked around is the evolution of the technology. If The thinking is, if the technology evolves at the rate that it needs to evolve, what we are thinking, what we are imagining, will be constructible. It'll be something that can be built in reality.
Correct. So part of our motivation, David, is we imagine the equivalent of ourselves when we were a teenager, when we had that sparkle, you know, that twinkle in the eyes of, I would love to become an astronaut and actually go to the moon, go to Mars, go to space, explore the solar system, etc. We want to rekindle the twinkle in the eyes of millions of kids out there, young people who are struggling to find meaning and purpose in this world, in this modern world, which is not making that easy. And we think inspiring them to take on careers that will actually take them to the moon and Mars and space, etc., or work on the technologies that are needed to enable all of that, and which, as you keep pointing out very rightly, benefit Earth by virtue of spin-off technology utilization. So that's part of what is a big part of what is driving us, David.
And that's great. That's why most people who are involved with us, I mean, Gary knows, as I said, Grant Anderson. Grant looked at our phase 2 and said, it's the most extensive project on the planet. So did, as I told, the Space Force Director Liaison to the Congress. So we're really interested in moving Earth forward. And it's not an easy challenge with all the things going on. I mean, Vandelay just had another delay. Every single time they're delaying. Weather is going to cause a big challenge with the future of any type of transport that we have. So there's a lot going on. So with that said, unfortunately, I have a 3-hour meeting with our team from Germany, from Singapore, and some of the members, and from the US. So I'm going to have to jump. Appreciate all of this. Helen, I did write you an email that we should get together. And Manny, we can take you through the journey. You've signed the NDA. We could take you through the journey, and you can see some of the things that we're doing. There's a lot. So appreciate everybody being on the call. Sorry, I'm not in a down mood. I'm actually in a positive mood, but I'm not a space person. I still don't look up. So when you hear me challenged, it's challenged with making something work. It's not challenged with space. It's not challenged with all of that. What I've done is I've worked with the CEOs of the largest companies in the world and solved major challenges in days that took years. That's what I do. I see interconnectedness of everything. So my mind right now while listening today is, geez, how the fuck do we get this done? That's what I'm saying. Sorry, I'm swearing, but I was on a call with McKinsey yesterday for 2.5 hours, and we're just like, how do you finance $156 billion with a monthly carry cost of $8 billion? I mean, a yearly carrying cost of $8 billion. I mean, the numbers are just crazy. So, and that's only for 90 people. So we've done all the calculations. So thank you very much, everybody, for being here and putting up with my garbage. Helen, you've got that. I'm going to jump onto our next call and look forward to connecting again with you, Gary. You got my information. Love to talk with you again. So everybody,
thank you for your passion, David.
You bet. You have a great day, all of you.
Take care.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Gary, I want to have another go at trying to make your mic work. It's really puzzling why we can't get your mic to work. But before we ask you to try something, I wanted to read aloud your latest contribution. So you wrote, there's an effort that has come out of Kepler Space University that happens to be called OASIS, that is seeking to create the knowledge base to storyboard the process that can be iteratively and recursively exercised. Very interesting. We would love to know more about that. and you write, not to be disrespectful, but the vast majority of the lunar conceptual engineering over the almost 5 decades that I have been in the business is more akin to cartoons, typically lacking the dimensionality of understanding necessary to build things. We need to equip people with the tools for further understanding, tools to further the understanding for both space and Earth. If we are working the problem right, we are learning how to provide for life as we know it. Absolutely. And I don't, no disrespect perceived at all, Gary. So you're actually confirming what Manny and I, what motivates Manny and I in, for example, the Selene engineering design. We, like David, but focused on this particular project, we want to bring together the resources, technological and otherwise, to really push the envelope of our ability to faithfully simulate space structures, lunar structures that will be buildable on the real moon, and close that loop between it works in simulation, but does it work actually on the moon? So as we go forward, we hope to that structures that have been developed with the help of our simulators, when they are actually on the moon, you know, when we see their actual behavior on the moon, to in a kind of a loop, iteratively improve the quality of the simulation, so that when we see it work in the simulator, we know that the simulation is so close to the reality on the moon and on Mars later that it will work. And so that's one of our goals. And we know we have a long way to go, but the goal is clear. Now, with regard to your mic issue, Gary, so could you try what Helen just wrote, which is accessing the space in an incognito window? So what probably causes your mic issue is that you didn't allow your Chrome browser to use your microphone. So entering the space in an incognito window might solve that. So I don't know if you're familiar with how to start an incognito window in Chrome, but if you are, then I invite you to, okay, Helen is showing on the shared screen where you can start an incognito window. You will have to re-enter your particulars, and you may be asked to give your Chrome browser the access to your mic, and of course, please do so. But if you could try that, that could resolve your mic issue. I'm going to give you a moment to try that, and then if it doesn't work, I'll continue reading and be your voice. And if it does work, you can say it yourself. Okay, so I see that you are attempting that at the moment. So let's give you a moment. I've seen you re-enter. I'm going to prompt you also. I don't know if you hear me, Gary, but if you don't hear me, you'll see it. I'm now sending you a prompt to unmute your mic. Let's give you a voice. Let's give you your voice. Okay, it doesn't look like that worked. That's a first. We haven't had one of those issues yet. I mean, um, we've had the case that somebody wasn't able to speak by voice, but we typically were able, with the things we suggested. Okay, I'm sending you a prompt again. So typically with the things we try, that has always worked, to give somebody a voice. So, okay, you still don't see a prompt. Okay, so we're not gonna fill the space with further troubleshooting your mic issue, Gary, but so I'll just continue being your virtual voice. You wrote, if you can imagine within your worldview, the notion of a pragmatic robotic space systems engineer is not an oxymoron. Arguably, I'm the embodiment of the same. Duly noted, Gary. So you have a career as an engineer designing space systems, and in particular, robotic space systems. And as you are an engineer, that by definition makes you a very pragmatic person. Engineers who are not pragmatic typically don't have very successful careers, in my understanding. So,
So Gary, I would suggest that at your option and your convenience, we could set up a follow-up call with you to get into these discussions in a bit more depth. I would be very interested in your feedback about what we're doing, but also, you know, we definitely would want to connect and work with MVA, and you know, and continue this process to move things forward.
absolutely. I would love to hear more, Gary, on occasion regarding the resources you mentioned for enabling visualizations like the one we have. Oh, Helen is thinking out of the out of the box. So, Gary, if you have WhatsApp or Telegram, we can basically loop your voice if that works. If we make it work over that channel, we can pipe that channel into the plenary voice chat here. So that is indeed yet another way. It's a bit kludgy, but we've done it before and it works. So in the meantime, in parallel, I read what you're writing. I own the system level requirements for advanced automation and robotics for what has become the ISS. That's most impressive. Wow. Where are you based, Gary? Are you East Coast, West Coast? I see in your LinkedIn that you're in Maryland. So that's East Coast, right? Okay. Gary is on WhatsApp. So let's get you on. We'll call you on WhatsApp, and then we'll your voice will be shared into this meeting that way. But we need your how to connect with you on WhatsApp, Gary. So if you could send us in LinkedIn as a LinkedIn message, or here your WhatsApp number, then we can connect with you on WhatsApp. In parallel to that, Manny, I wanted to bring to your attention that we have in this meeting, I don't know if he's still here and paying attention, but we have Alex. I've told you about Alex on
Yes.
multiple occasions. And so,
Yes, I see him.
Alex, if you hear me, if you're still paying attention, you're welcome to join the voice chat, and you can tell us about the new progress version that we've been discussing for this week. So Alex told me, Manny, oh, there you are. Yes. So why don't you say so yourself, Alex? The new progress version of the Apollo 11 landing experience is almost ready, right? And as my understanding is that the visuals will not be significantly improved, but it's mostly a performance improvement version, correct?
Yes, something like this. Yeah, I'm generating surface a bit differently, and also thinking about some optimization to reduce triangle count, because with a lot of rocks we will have problems with power.
I understand. Yes. So for the other participants, Alex is our lead on the Apollo 11 landing experience, which is designed to be enjoyed on immersive headsets, such as the MetaQuest headsets and the Apple Vision Pro. And so he is one of our team members working on Virtual Moon. Okay, so we still need your WhatsApp number to add you to connect with you on WhatsApp, Gary. So we see that you are living in Cabin John, Maryland.
You just sent the number.
Okay, great. We have it. So we'll try and loop you in. Okay. Can you call? So when we have your voice with us, Gary, maybe you could tell us a bit more about the project, and are you the head honcho of the? You are the vice president of Moon Village Association. So okay, we're calling you now. Hey Gary, do you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. You are, we're piping your voice into the voice chat on Tranquility Base. You will probably want to mute your the speaker of that PC, because otherwise we may have a.
It's already been done.
Okay, wonderful.
It's already been done.
Excellent. Manny, can you confirm that you are hearing Gary's voice?
Yes, I hear you, Gary. Gary, thanks for joining this presentation. And I don't know if you recall meeting me. I know I've met you a few times at various space conferences we've attended going back.
You worked with me on a cooperative proposal for NASA that we did with Google and a number of other entities.
That's right.
They wanted to fuse space-related educational content into a massively multiplayer online gaming environment. And
That's right. That's right.
the solicitation called for us writing a thoughtful paper on the subject, and we proposed to actually do it.
Yes.
And that managed to generate an interesting response out of NASA Goddard, saying, well, gosh, gee, all that we thought we would get out of this would be an interesting report. We don't know what we would do it. We're not sure if we're prepared for you to do it for real yet. But so there's some interesting twists. You've been involved from very early on, on different aspects of this, and I'm glad to see things are moving along from your front.
Yes, never as fast as all of us would like, but continue to make progress. And I think we're now on the verge of a real inflection point with this effort. And the things look like they're going to fall into place. And the big key here was connecting with Philip. His team is just incredibly talented, and not just Philip, but almost everyone on the team has an equal passion for space and for the moon. So that's where that's where it became finally possible to do this.
Indeed, as computational capacity has gone up, it's interesting to see what's doable. And I find somewhat ironic. I started tilting at what we refer to as n-dimensional interaction problems. Back in my original thesis in 1984. Going back and reading it and realizing it is still current, it was a scary thing.
Yeah.
So, Gary, could you share with us the current state and mission and vision of the Moon Village Association? How many people are you? What are the activities, and how are you guys doing?
Right now, the membership of the Moon Village Association is under 1,000. Official members made up of a combination of people and different institutional entities. I've been mixed up with it, for a number of years through the auspices of my company, Extraordinary Innovative Space Partnerships Inc., or XISP Inc. for short. It stems, of course, out of discussions. John Warner, had been embroiled in when he was the Director General at ESA, and it became an entity in its own right that basically is trying to establish that there's a basis for international cooperation and collaboration that crosses the different business sectors. Space is not just a nation state or multi-nation state agency issue. It has to involve a combination of both commercial and nonprofit and universities, a whole range of actors that functions as stakeholders in the same. And my intersection is co-chairing. I serve as the vice president, acting at the moment, but I'm up for election. John Mankins was who held the role, was otherwise had some other commitments that he had to attend to. So I serve to act as as I said, the co-chair of the architecture working group. One of the things we're trying to do there is for each of the elements and distributed systems that are envisioned to be required, being able to create a framework for characterizing them, and as many reasonable instantiations as it takes to articulate what's known to be known about the design trades, and entailing the same, with the idea being that each attempt to articulate an instance of something with definable requirements in the space environment represents a form of virtual testbed, if done properly, where what you're going off and doing is not just trying to create an interesting point design that is effectively a standalone one-off, but a design effort that seeks to capture exactly what the trades are and the how and why you're making them, so that you can not only iterate designs, but you can recursively evolve your understanding of what requirements you're having to meet and how to best orchestrate the same. So, what I see, in my role as MBA is trying to encourage that, trying to, help make, help provide for cooperation, collaboration, and competition, and try and understand what we can do that encourages, I think, what amounts to being better outcomes. And what constitutes a reasonable path to get there. I don't. My perspective is I'm hoping that that's a way to help pay forward, because I think we need to have as broad an engagement as possible in these issues, whether or not it is by folks that have a vicarious interest, folks that want to become part of, helping to, broaden the understanding of themselves and others in these areas, and folks that want to help build stuff. We need to help support those paths of engagement.
Absolutely. So you mentioned some resources that are available at Moon Village Association that can help for the kind of visualization that Virtual Moon does. What exactly is available? And yes.
Okay, so what we're trying to do, there's been various efforts that have generated what amounts to being static visualizations of different elements and distributed systems that would be involved in developing a lunar village. What we're trying to go off and do is find a way of having those translated into manipulatable 3D models that can be readily imported into environments such as yours. We've been Ron Muller had been in touch with the MBA before, in terms of the activities out of the Swamp Works efforts to try and come up with integrated sims in those regards. We're working, my company, XISP Inc., is working with the Kepler Oasis team to try and go through and build up models from our side. We're starting in what amounts to being the Autodesk world, where we're going to figure out what ends up making the most sense in terms of what's going to be readily transportable. but we want our intention is that going forward that we encourage any competitions, papers that are being done to be able to support the three-dimensional 3D visualization of the same of anything that's talked about it. And our intention is to try and lead by example in those regards and figure out what works, quite frankly, so that we can populate the models with our not just the visualizations, but the requirements that drive them.
Yes. So, Manny, I think it would be ideal if you could take the lead on exploring these resources, and then we need to figure out how to integrate them into the virtual moon system architecture to be able to use those, for example, for the engineering validation of designs such as the Selene site.
No, absolutely. We'll follow up on this, and again, we'll figure a way to work together. Selene came out of an idea way back when I was project manager for Return to the Moon for the Space Frontier Foundation. I attended all these space conferences with all these presentations about different concepts, different ideas for systems and installations and so on. But my frustration was always that the conferences dispersed and the ideas stayed sort of floating in the air. And I wanted to create a sort of a nucleation site, something where we could coordinate and integrate different ideas and bring all the thinking into alignment towards one vision, one solution, and again work through the issues that you brought up, Gary, about figuring out what are the tasks and the disciplines that can contribute to implementing the vision eventually. And I saw it as a nucleation site for ideas, as an iterative process where we could evolve the final vision. The initial specification, let's say for this kind of a permanent installation, was going to be flawed by definition. But then through this iterative process, we would remove the flaws one by one and evolve the design, and eventually come up with a workable solution. So that's kind of the reason for Selene. But I also see it as a way of inspiring and motivating people to get involved and to again contribute their talents and their ideas, so that collectively we can arrive at the final implementation, and one that's actually again constructible in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, there it's I think that this is an important part of the puzzle going forward, and the more basically the more successful we are in terms of inculcating interesting souls with what with both the tools and some form of framework that helps organize and structure the knowledge associated with these domains. The further and faster we can go with it.
Yeah, and I'm a big believer in the power of virtual reality. As I mentioned when earlier in this session, we can basically replicate everything that we would have to do in reality. We can replicate all of those steps without having to make investments, without spending money. We can do virtually what we would need to do in reality, but it requires a tiny fraction of the resources that we would take to do it, physically. So that to me, that's the big advantage. You can build it before you build it, and figure out all the pitfalls, all the dead ends, all the obstacles that have to be overcome to get to the end point.
Absolutely. So, Gary, I wanted to ask you, now, it was a joy, and it's great that you were able to join us for this meeting. Could you do kind of off the top of your head, like a little SWOT review of what you've seen? What do you think are the strengths of our of what we've been showing, and what are the weaknesses? Which opportunities may we not be aware of, and what threats to the project may we not be aware of?
Well, arguably perhaps the biggest impediment to to a grand project is presuming that you have to have everything right to actually start doing something real. Okay, so the fact that you've got an environment that's that has a reasonable visual characterization to start from is great. I don't know what's being done with respect to the underlying physics models. You do have it most broadly put, this is an n-dimensional interaction problem. And in order to make such things tractable, you've got to find a way to propagate constraints faster than the problem space is changing, and within the computational ability of your system to posit a solution. So you've got, anyone using such a thing is going to be, ideally should be able to interact at whatever level, is deemed appropriate. So you're basically, creating, a sub-problem. You're going to have some way of structuring and encoding the metadata or relationships, if you will, between the different entities. There's a strategy that I've taken with this in terms of my research is the idea that you, for any system of systems, you effectively create a block diagram that can be modeled as a set of flows across defined interfaces. Whether or not those flows are flows of energy, flows of matter, or flows of data. What it takes to characterize, for example, an electrical flow is the same set of attributes, regardless of what the source of the terminus is. Arguably, you can create such a taxonomy of flows, which enable you to basically, by structuring and ordering things appropriately, you can focus in on what matters for the particular part of the sub-problem that you need to solve at the moment. So you can have a very elaborate sets of intersecting data, but you're only processing the pieces of it that you need to at any given point in time. So that's, paying attention to those sorts of strategies. Basically, you need to, if you haven't figured out from an architectural standpoint how you're going to be handling and managing the relationships, that's that is something that you should be be an integral part of what it is that you're doing. And to give you I think a very accessible example, there in the world of computer-aided design systems, there's for the longest time there was everybody else's, and there was AutoCAD. And why did AutoCAD make it? Instead of there just being one way to do something, there would be 10 or 15 or whatever. It didn't matter, because from the way that the AutoCAD software was architected, it was based on a Lisp paradigm, okay, where it's a set of relationships that objects have with one another that it's curating. So it didn't matter whether or not there was one way to do something or 15 ways of doing something. It was just, you could follow the same pattern and build as many interfaces as necessary. We need to, I would argue, for what you're doing, following a similar notion where you're incorporating each new model element should not be a research project. It should be a consistent path that enables you to abstract models and import them, and doing so is going to require some some manipulation from the standpoint of creating a way of putting any model that you want to import. Basically, it shouldn't all be on on your system. It should be what it takes to create a reasonable compromise. That's what was the finding that led to back in the day the creation of the IGES specifications and different modeling approaches in 2D. Okay, and where we are with respect to the import of 3D models that are actually dimensionally accurate and can deal with there being skinned and surface interactions, is it remains an interesting question. But there is certainly there is a technical ability to do it. If you've ever had the I guess one of the things that I found was striking about this stuff was I had the opportunity to spend some quality time in the ISS virtual reality simulator down at NASA Johnson, and they're getting their effort has gotten into the point where you start seeing sensory fusion issues, where when you start activating two or more senses simultaneously, you end up in a situation where your brain starts auto-completing, which takes you from clipping back and forth between watching your avatar versus seeing through the eyes of your avatar and perceiving that you were there. And so there's there's all sorts of layers to it, but I think you're my apologies for only offering up a partial explanation to your question, but those are some of the threads that I think relate to where there's real issues with respect to the particular problem space in question here that need thoughtful solutions, and you find ways of making it work that don't effectively compromise what you're doing. It's sort of like the old way that you do 3D, 3D modeling, where you make it look pretty for the view that you wanted to look at it at. But the reality is the lines did not match up. The planes were out of it. Everything, everything ended up being, really a cartoon. We can't, we want to avoid. We want to avoid that. We want to get as close to real as we can. Over.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's the driving fundamental principle that we're after.
Indeed. So, at the Moon Village Association, what are the challenges of the organization of the project? How long has it been going on, and what will it take to take you guys to the next level?
Well, in the past, it has been, paper studies, if you will. Okay, I, was asked, to step in the situation, as I alluded to earlier, because John Mankins was, in a time-constrained situation. And, one of the things I was asked to do was to get it off paper and into, get the work into systems that could be shared, and to start curating these models to be able to help populate the different virtual worlds that people were trying to pull together. And I have an abiding interest in such things, so that's our goal in the architecture working group, to make the transition from essentially paper work products to actually being able to have distributable and importable visualization elements of all the perceived elements and distributed systems that would be required to support a lunar settlement.
Great.
So we have a significant amount of data, earnest aspiration, and I am trying to get exercise our working group to get some things done in those regards, and I intend to be pulling together the best representations of our current studies, and also feed in the Kepler stuff and see if we can find a pattern of what it takes to provide importable models.
Thank you. That helps. So, Manny, I think we want many further meetings with Gary, but for the purpose of this particular meeting, I think we came to a kind of a natural resting point where we can wrap up. I mean, people are welcome to continue hanging out, but I think we do want to provide a explicit closure of the proceedings. So I invite you, Manny, to do that.
Yes, indeed. This went way beyond what we had planned, but it was all very productive and positive discussion, and I really appreciate everybody that came to either participate or just observe. We do plan to hold more of these sessions, a little more focused, a little more structured, and we'll be sending out announcements as they're scheduled, and we hope the the attendance will also increase and so on, and the level of cooperation and connections that will result from this, I think, will be very positive. But yeah, just wanted to say again, thank you for everyone who attended and participated, and thank you, Philip, again for your masterful presentation skills.
You are most welcome, Manny. So I will join you in thanking everybody for their attendance. Gary, for your wonderful contributions. We look forward to exploring the space of those opportunities of collaboration with you as well. Very much so. Alex, thank you. Adriano, Alan, etc. Have a great evening, and ad astra.
Ad astra.
Don't escape. Look at your email and contact me.
All righty. Cheers.